Eleanor Dawson's knees hit the frozen boardwalk and she couldn't get up. Not this time. Her empty basket rolled into the mud. Behind her, 7 children huddled together, the youngest ones crying, the oldest trying not to. 3 weeks without a real meal. The store owner had just slammed the door in her face, and the whole town watched like she was already a ghost. That's when she heard boots in the snow. Heavy, deliberate, coming straight for her. "Ma'am." A man's voice, low and rough. "Can you stand? Stay until the end to see what happens next, and comment your city below, so I can see how far this story travels across the world." Eleanor tried to push herself up. Her arms shook. Her vision blurred at the edges, and somewhere behind her she heard little Rose start to wail. "Mama!" Samuel's voice cracked. Her 12-year-old was trying so hard to sound like a man. "Mama, get up!" "I'm trying, baby." She wasn't trying. She couldn't. Her body had finally given out after weeks of giving every scrap of food to her children. After days of nothing but snow-melted water and prayers that didn't seem to reach heaven anymore. "Well, well." Vernon Wade's voice oozed from the doorway of the general store. "Still here, Mrs. Dawson. I thought I made myself clear." Eleanor forced her head up. The store owner stood with his arms crossed, his expensive wool coat straining across his belly, gold watch chain gleaming, the smell of tobacco and self-satisfaction rolling off him like a sickness. "Please." The words scraped her throat raw. "Mr. Wade, I'm not asking for charity. I'll work. I can clean. I can mend. You can what?" He spat tobacco juice into the snow near her hand. "Work a widow with 7 mouths to feed. Nobody wants that kind of trouble." "They're children. They're hungry." "Same difference out here." Eleanor's fingers dug into the frozen wood. Behind Wade, faces appeared in the store window. Women she'd once called friends. Men who'd tipped their hats when Henry was alive. Now they watched like she was entertainment. "My husband built this town's church," Eleanor said, her voice cracking. "He helped raise every barn within 20 miles. He was a good man. A respected man." Was. Wade's eyes were stones. Key word there, Mrs. Dawson. Was. He's been dead 8 months now, and his debts haven't died with him. I don't owe you $20. The original debt was 5. Interest. He smiled, showing tobacco-stained teeth. It accumulates. That's just business. That's robbery. Something ugly flashed across Wade's face. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "I made you an offer, Eleanor, 2 months ago. A warm bed, food for those brats, security. You remember what you said to me?" Eleanor's stomach turned. She remembered. She'd remember until the day she died. "I remember." "You said you'd rather starve." Wade straightened up, spreading his hands wide. "Well, looks like you got your wish." He turned and walked back inside. The door slammed shut with a sound like a coffin lid closing. Eleanor stayed on her knees. The cold seeped through her thin dress. Her children gathered behind her, Samuel holding the twins, Martha gripping Tommy's hand, Grace trying to comfort little Ben. 7 children. 7 reasons to keep breathing. 7 reasons she couldn't just lie down in the snow and let the cold take her. "Mama?" Grace's small voice was barely a whisper. "Why won't they help us?" Eleanor didn't have an answer. She'd been asking herself the same question for 8 months. The boots stopped beside her. "Ma'am?" Eleanor flinched, expecting more cruelty, more judgment. Another dose of the small-town poison that had become her daily bread. "Can you stand?" She turned her head. The man stood at the edge of the boardwalk, tall, broad-shouldered, trail dust on his coat and snow in his dark hair. His face was all hard angles, and shadow, a scar running from his temple to his jaw. But his eyes, brown deep, steady, held no judgment. No pity either, just a calm attention that made her feel seen for the first time in months. I said, can you stand? I don't know. Eleanor hated how weak her voice sounded. I don't think so. The stranger crouched beside her. Up close, she could see silver threading through his dark hair, weathered lines around his eyes. He looked like a man who'd walked through fire and kept walking. Here. He offered his hand palm up, calloused, scarred, work-worn. Take it slow. Eleanor stared at his hand. Why? The word came out sharp. Suspicious. She'd learned the hard way that kindness from strangers always came with a price. Why what? Why would you help me? You don't know me. Don't have to. He said it simply, like it was obvious, like kindness was still something that existed in the world. I can't pay you. Didn't ask for payment. Eleanor's eyes burned. She blinked hard, refusing to cry in front of this man, in front of the whole town, still watching through Wade's window. Mama. Samuel's voice was tight with fear and hope. Maybe we should... Hush, Samuel. The stranger's gaze shifted to her children. Something in his expression changed. Just slightly. Just enough. 7, he asked quietly. 7. How long since they've eaten? Really eaten? Eleanor couldn't answer. The shame was too thick in her throat. 3 weeks. Samuel spoke up when his mother couldn't. We had some old bread last week. Some roots we found, but real food. He trailed off. The stranger was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood and pulled off his coat, heavy canvas lined with wool, and draped it around Eleanor's shoulders. The warmth was almost painful. Get up, he said. Not harsh, not demanding, just certain. I've got a wagon at the end of the street. Supplies, food. I'll take you wherever you need to go. I can't. You can and you will. He looked at Samuel. Help your mother. We need to move before this storm hits. Samuel hesitated, looking at Eleanor for guidance. She saw the hope warring with caution in his young face. The same war she felt in her own heart. The stranger turned and started walking toward his wagon, then stopped. Name's Jesse, he said without looking back. Jesse Calhoun. And ma'am, whatever you decide, those children need to get warm. Soon. The store door opened behind them. That's it, Widow Dawson. Wade's voice carried across the street loud enough for everyone to hear. Get in the wagon with some drifter. Show the whole town what kind of woman you really are. Eleanor saw Jesse stop walking, saw his shoulders tighten, saw him turn slowly, and something in his stillness made her blood run cold. You want to repeat that? Jesse's voice was quiet, controlled, but underneath it was something that made Wade take a step backward. I'm just saying, I heard what you said. Jesse walked toward Wade, each step deliberate. I also saw you turn away a starving woman and her children. Saw you spit at her feet. Saw you smile while babies cried behind her. She owes me money. She owes you nothing. Jesse stopped a foot from Wade. Whatever debt you're claiming ain't worth a child's life, and if you were any kind of man, you'd know that. Wade's face had gone pale. His hand moved toward his coat, toward what Eleanor guessed was a pistol. Jesse didn't move. Didn't flinch, just watched with those steady brown eyes. Go ahead, Jesse said calmly. Draw. See what happens. The street had gone silent. Every eye was watching. Every breath was held. Wade's hand stopped. Dropped. This ain't over, he said, but his voice had lost its swagger. You're making enemies here, stranger. Wouldn't be the first time. Jesse turned his back on Wade, deliberate, dismissive, and walked back to Eleanor. He helped her to her feet, his grip strong and steady, then looked at her children. Can you all walk? They nodded. Even little Ben, who couldn't possibly understand what was happening. Then let's go. Storm's coming. They walked to the wagon. Eleanor felt the eyes on her back like brands, felt the whispers starting, felt the judgment spreading through the town like poison. But she kept walking, kept holding Rose in one arm and Lily's hand with the other, kept moving forward because it was the only direction left. The wagon was half full of supplies: flour beans, salt pork blankets, more food than Eleanor had seen in months. "You a trader?" she asked, as Jesse helped the children into the wagon bed. "Of sorts." He lifted the twins in gentle, as if they were made of glass. "Do some trapping, some ranch work, move around." A drifter, Eleanor thought. No roots, no ties, no reason to stay. "Where's your place?" Jesse climbed onto the driver's bench. "South Road, about 4 miles, along the creek." He clicked his tongue, and the horses started moving. Samuel scrambled to sit beside Eleanor on the bench. The other children huddled in the back, wrapped in blankets. Jesse had provided their eyes wide with wonder at the food surrounding them. "Mama." Grace's voice was barely audible. Can we eat something?" Eleanor looked at Jesse. He nodded. "Let them eat. Slow, though. Their bellies ain't used to food." Eleanor turned and carefully handed out pieces of bread, small portions of dried meat. She watched her children eat, really eat for the first time in weeks. Watched the color start to come back to their hollow cheeks. Watched the light return to their eyes. And something inside her cracked open. Something she'd been holding together with nothing but will and desperation. "Thank you." The words came out broken. "I don't know why I can't." "Don't need thanks." Jesse kept his eyes on the road. "Just need to know you'll be all right." "Why do you care?" The question hung in the cold air between them. Jesse was quiet for a long time. The wagon creaked. The horse's breath fogged. Snow began to fall light at first, then heavier. "I had a family once," he said finally. "Didn't save them. Couldn't." His jaw tightened. "I've spent a lot of years since then not being able to save much of anything, not even myself." Eleanor waited. "Then I see you," Jesse continued, his voice rough. "On your knees in the street. 7 children behind you. The whole town watching and nobody moving to help. And I think, maybe this time, maybe this one time, I can do something right. You don't owe us anything." "No, ma'am. I don't." He glanced at her, and she saw something old and sad in his eyes. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the things worth doing are the things nobody owes. Eleanor didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing, just sat beside this stranger who'd appeared out of nowhere and given her something she'd almost forgotten existed: hope. The cabin appeared through the falling snow, and Jesse's expression tightened. "That's home." Eleanor felt the familiar shame rise in her chest. The cabin leaned at a dangerous angle. The roof was more hole than shingle. The porch had partially collapsed. It was barely standing, barely shelter, barely anything at all. "I know it's not much. It's not enough." Jesse's voice wasn't cruel, just honest. "Not for winter. Not for 7 children. It's what we have." He was quiet as they pulled up to the cabin. The children climbed out, stretching cold limbs, looking around at the familiar poverty with new eyes now that a stranger was seeing it too. Samuel helped Eleanor down from the wagon. Her legs were steadier now, the bread she'd eaten giving her body something to work with. "Storm's getting worse." Jesse looked at the sky. "I'll help you get settled. Make sure you've got enough to weather it." "Mr. Calhoun." "Jesse." "Jesse." Eleanor hesitated. "You've already done more than anyone has in 8 months. I can't ask." "You're not asking. I'm offering." He started unloading supplies from the wagon. "And I ain't leaving until I know these children are warm and fed. So you can either argue with me while the snow gets deeper, or you can let me help." Martha appeared at Eleanor's elbow, 10 years old and already carrying too much weight on her small shoulders. "Mama, should we start a fire?" "Yes, sweetheart. Take Tommy and Grace to gather what wood we have." The children scattered to their tasks, efficient and practiced at survival. Jesse watched them with something like respect in his eyes. They're good kids. They're everything. Eleanor's voice caught. They're the only reason I'm still standing. That's something. Jesse handed her a sack of flour. That's more than something. That's everything that matters. Inside the cabin was cold. Not quite as cold as outside, but close. Eleanor directed the children while Jesse moved through the small space assessing planning. Gaps in the walls, he said. Roof's shot. Door don't seal proper. He turned to look at her. How have you survived this long? We haven't. Not really. Eleanor started working on the fireplace. We've just been dying slow. The words hung in the air, brutal and honest. Jesse crouched beside her and took the flint from her shaking hands. Let me. Within minutes, he had a fire going. The children gathered around it like moths to flame, their small bodies soaking in the warmth. I'll make stew, Eleanor said, moving toward the supplies Jesse had brought in. It won't be fancy, but... Ma'am, Jesse's voice was gentle. When's the last time you ate? Really ate? The children needed. I didn't ask about the children. I asked about you. Eleanor couldn't meet his eyes. I don't remember. Jesse was quiet for a moment. Then he stood and guided her firmly toward a chair. Sit. I should sit. His voice left no room for argument. You can't take care of 7 children if you drop dead from starvation. Sit down, eat something, and let me handle this. Eleanor sat. Not because she agreed, but because her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. She watched Jesse move through her kitchen, such as it was, with surprising competence. He made stew, while the children watched, their eyes huge, as the smell of real food filled the cabin. You can cook, Samuel observed. Man doesn't survive alone on the trail without learning to cook. Jesse stirred the pot. Among other things. What other things? Samuel. Eleanor's voice held a warning. It's all right. Jesse glanced at the boy. Hunting, tracking, fixing things that break, staying alive when everything's trying to kill you. That sounds hard. It is. Jesse lifted the pot from the fire. But hard ain't the same as impossible. Your mama knows that. She's been doing it longer than she should have had to. Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes again. She blinked them back. The stew was simple beans and salt pork, and a few roots, but to her children it might as well have been a feast. She watched them eat, watched the fear slowly drain from their faces, watched them start to look like children again, instead of small starving survivors. Ben crawled into her lap when he was done, his belly full for the first time in weeks. Mama, he murmured sleepily. Is the man staying? Eleanor looked at Jesse, who was cleaning the pot like it was the most natural thing in the world. I don't know, baby. I hope he stays. Ben's eyes were already closing. He's nice. He gave us food. Jesse's hands stilled for just a moment. Then he kept cleaning his face, unreadable. Storm's getting bad. He didn't turn around. Might be stuck here till morning, maybe longer. You're welcome to stay. Eleanor heard herself say it before she could think better of it. It's the least I can do. Jesse finally turned. His brown eyes found hers, and something passed between them. An understanding. A recognition. I'll sleep in the barn, he said. Keep an eye on the horses. The barn's barely standing. It'll do. His voice was firm but not unkind. Get some rest, Mrs. Dawson. You and the children. In the morning, we'll figure out what comes next. What do you mean, what comes next? Jesse moved toward the door, pulling his coat back on. I mean that cabin ain't going to survive winter as is. I mean Wade ain't going to forget what happened today. I mean you've got 7 children and no help and a storm bearing down. He paused at the door. I mean, we've got problems to solve. But not tonight. Tonight you rest. Why? Eleanor stood, her voice raw. Why do you keep helping? What do you want from us? Jesse looked at her for a long moment. The fire crackled. The wind howled outside. Her children slept warm and fed for the first time in memory. I want nothing from you, ma'am. His voice was quiet. Maybe that's hard to believe after what you've been through. Maybe you've got good reason not to trust anyone. But I'm not everyone. I'm just a man who saw something wrong and couldn't walk away from it. People always want something. Most people, not all. Jesse opened the door. Get some sleep, Mrs. Dawson. I'll be here in the morning. The door closed behind him. Eleanor stood in the middle of her broken-down cabin, surrounded by her sleeping children, warm for the first time in weeks, fed for the first time in longer. And she did something she hadn't done since Henry died. She cried. Not from sadness, not from despair, but from something that felt almost like hope. Something that felt almost like maybe, just maybe the world wasn't as cruel as she'd come to believe. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, the fire burned low but steady. And somewhere in the falling snow, a stranger watched over them. A stranger who, for reasons Eleanor couldn't begin to understand, had decided they were worth saving. Eleanor woke to the smell of coffee. Real coffee. Not the chicory root substitute she'd been stretching for months. The rich, dark scent filled the cabin, and for a moment she thought she was dreaming. "Mama." Samuel's voice was hushed. "The man's back. He's making breakfast." Eleanor sat up too fast. Her head spun from weeks of hunger, and she gripped the edge of the bed until the world steadied. Jesse Calhoun stood at her stove stirring something in the pot with one hand while flipping Johnny cakes with the other. He moved like a man comfortable in small spaces, efficient and unhurried. "Storm's still going," he said without turning around. "Worse than I thought. We ain't going anywhere today." "You stayed." "Said I would." Eleanor pulled her shawl tight around her shoulders. The fire was roaring bigger and hotter than she'd been able to manage in months. And the gaps in the walls. She squinted. Had he stuffed them with something? "I patched what I could in the night," Jesse said, reading her thoughts. "Found some old canvas in your barn. It'll hold till the storm passes." "You didn't sleep." "I slept enough." The children were stirring now, drawn by the smell of food. Ben crawled out from under his blanket, his eyes still heavy with sleep. "Is there really breakfast?" Grace asked, her voice small and hopeful. "There's breakfast." Jesse filled a bowl and held it out to her. "Eat slow, remember." Eleanor watched her children eat. Watched Jesse serve them one by one, patient and careful, making sure the little ones got their share before the bigger ones asked for seconds. He moved around her kitchen like he belonged there, and something about that made her chest tight. "You should eat too, ma'am." Eleanor startled. Jesse was holding out a bowl to her, his brown eyes steady on her face. "The children have eaten. Now it's your turn." She took the bowl. Her hands shook as she lifted the spoon. The first bite was almost painful, her stomach cramping around real food after so long without. "Slow," Jesse reminded her. "Small bites. I know how to eat. You know how to starve yourself so your children don't have to." His voice wasn't accusing, just honest. "That's different." Eleanor's eyes burned. She blinked hard and focused on the food. "Mr. Calhoun." "Jesse." "Jesse." She set down the spoon. "Why are you still here?" "The storm's bad." "Yes, but you could make it to town if you pushed. You don't have to." "I know I don't have to." He poured himself coffee and sat down across from her. "But I'm going to anyway." "Why?" "Because that roof's going to collapse if someone doesn't fix it proper. Because you've got enough wood for maybe 3 more days. Because Wade ain't the type to let yesterday go." Jesse's jaw tightened. "And because those children deserve better than dying slow in a cabin that's falling apart." "We're not dying." "You're not living either." The words hit like a slap. Eleanor's spine stiffened. "You don't know anything about—" "I know what I see." Jesse leaned forward. "I see a woman who's given everything she has to keep 7 children alive. I see kids who've learned to be hungry, learned to be cold, learned to expect nothing from anyone." His voice dropped. I see a family that's been forgotten by everyone who should have helped them, and I see that it ain't right." Eleanor couldn't speak. The truth of his words sat heavy in her chest. "Mama," Martha appeared at her elbow. "Can I have more? Just a little?" Eleanor looked at Jesse. He nodded toward the pot. "Help yourself, little miss. There's plenty." Martha's eyes went wide. "Plenty. Plenty." The girl moved toward the stove like she expected the food to disappear. Like plenty was a word she'd forgotten the meaning of. Jesse watched her, and something crossed his face. Something old and painful. "You said you had a family." Eleanor's voice was barely audible. "What happened to them?" Jesse was quiet for a long moment. "Fire," he said finally. "I was away, working a cattle drive 200 miles south. By the time I got word—" He stopped, swallowed. "By the time I got back, there was nothing left but ashes and graves. I'm sorry. It was 12 years ago. Does that make it easier?" "No, ma'am." Jesse's hands wrapped around his coffee cup. "It doesn't." Samuel had been listening from across the room. Now he stepped forward, his young face tight with the need to understand. "Is that why you helped us? Because we remind you of them?" "Samuel," Eleanor's voice was sharp. "It's a fair question." Jesse looked at the boy. "And the answer is, partly. But mostly I helped because it was the right thing to do. Because I spent too many years not doing the right thing, and I'm tired of being that man." "What kind of man were you?" Jesse's eyes met Samuel's, and Eleanor saw something pass between them. A recognition. A test. "The kind who didn't care about much of anything," Jesse said quietly. "The kind who figured if the world was going to be cruel, he might as well be cruel right back. And now? Now I'm trying to be different." Jesse stood taking his cup to the basin. "Whether I succeed or not? Well, that's up to the trying, isn't it?" The storm raged on through the day. Jesse worked while Eleanor tried to help fixing what he could with what little they had. He reinforced the walls. He patched the roof from inside, climbing up into the rafters with the agility that surprised her. He split wood that had been sitting in the barn for months, too heavy for Eleanor to manage alone. "You don't have to do all this," she said for the dozenth time. "I know." "Then why?" "Because it needs doing." Jesse wiped sweat from his forehead despite the cold. "And because you can't do it alone. Nobody could. I've managed. You've survived." He drove another nail into a loose board. "There's a difference." Eleanor watched him work. Watched the way he moved, purposeful, efficient, like a man who'd spent his life working with his hands. The scar on his face caught the firelight, and she wondered again how he'd gotten it. "The scar," she said before she could stop herself. "How did you—" "War." Jesse didn't look up. "I rode with the Texas Cavalry. Took a saber across the face at Chickamauga. You were Confederate. I was young and stupid and thought I was fighting for something." He straightened, meeting her eyes. "I was wrong about a lot of things back then. And now I don't fight for causes. I just try to help where I can and move on before I make things worse." "Why would you make things worse?" Jesse was quiet for a beat too long. "Jesse, there are people looking for me," he said finally. "Not lawmen, just people I used to know, people I used to work for." Eleanor's blood chilled. "What kind of people?" "The kind you don't want knowing where you are." He picked up another board. "The kind you don't want knowing where your family is." "So you're running." "I'm surviving." His voice was flat. "Same as you." The admission hung between them. Two people running from different things crashed together by chance in a broken-down cabin while a storm raged outside. "Will they find you here?" "I don't know." Jesse finally looked at her. "But if they do, I'll leave. I won't bring trouble to your door." "You've already brought more help than trouble." Eleanor surprised herself with the words, "Whatever you're running from, it doesn't change what you did yesterday, what you're doing now. Doesn't it?" "No." Jesse stared at her for a long moment. Then something shifted in his face, a softening, a crack in the armor he wore. "You're a strange woman, Eleanor Dawson." "Is that bad?" "No, ma'am." The corner of his mouth twitched. "That's not bad at all." By evening, the cabin felt different, warmer, more solid. The gaps were sealed, the fire burned steady, and for the first time in months, Eleanor didn't feel the wind cutting through the walls. The children had warmed to Jesse too. Grace sat beside him while he whittled, watching his hands shape wood into something that might become a toy. Tommy peppered him with questions about horses. Even Samuel, suspicious and protective, had started to relax. "Can you teach me?" Martha asked, pointing at the knife and wood in Jesse's hands. "If your mama says it's all right." Eleanor nodded, and Martha settled in to learn. "You're good with them," Eleanor said quietly. "They're good kids." Jesse guided Martha's hands on the knife. "Easy to be good with good kids." "They weren't always like this," Eleanor's voice caught. "Before Henry died, they laughed more, played more. Ben used to run around this cabin like a wild thing, and Rose sang all the time." She paused. "They've forgotten how to be children." "They'll remember." Jesse's hands were steady on Martha's. "Give them time. Give them safety. They'll remember." "How do you know?" "Because I've seen it before." He looked at her over Martha's head. "I've seen what happens to folks when they've got nothing, and I've seen what happens when they get something back. People are stronger than you think. Children especially." Eleanor wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. "The storm's breaking," Samuel announced from the window. "I can see stars." Jesse stood crossing to look out. "Should be clear by morning. Roads'll be rough but passable. You're leaving." Eleanor kept her voice steady, but something inside her twisted. "I should." Jesse didn't turn around. "Got no right to stay. What if I asked you to—" The words were out before she could stop them. Eleanor felt her face heat, felt the children's eyes on her, felt the weight of what she'd just said. Jesse turned slowly. "Ma'am." "Eleanor." "Eleanor." He said her name like he was tasting it. "You don't know me. You don't know what I've done, where I've been. You're asking a stranger to—" "I'm asking a man who helped me when no one else would." Eleanor stood facing him across the small room. "I'm asking someone who fed my children and fixed my roof and didn't ask for anything in return. I don't care what you've done. I care what you're doing now." "And what am I doing now?" "You're standing there trying to talk yourself into leaving." Eleanor stepped closer. "Because it's easier. Because staying is hard, and leaving is what you know." Jesse's jaw tightened. "You don't understand." "Then help me understand." The children had gone quiet, watching this exchange with wide eyes. Even little Ben had stopped fidgeting. "If I stay," Jesse said slowly, "I bring trouble. Wade's trouble, yes, but more than that. There are men who'd hurt you just to get to me. Men who wouldn't think twice about—" He stopped, his hands clenching. "I can't put you in that danger. I won't." "We're already in danger." Eleanor's voice was fierce. "Wade wants this land. He wants me. He's not going to stop because you leave. The only difference is whether I face him alone or not. You've got Samuel. Samuel is 12 years old." Eleanor's voice cracked. "He's a child trying to be a man because there's no one else. I'm asking you, Jesse. I'm asking you to stay. Help us through the winter. Help us figure out what comes next. And then we'll figure that out too." Jesse looked at her, looked at the children watching from across the room, looked at the cabin he'd spent a day fixing, the fire he'd built, the family he'd stumbled into by accident. "1 week," he said finally. "I'll stay 1 week. Get you through this cold snap, make sure Wade doesn't try anything. After that," he shook his head. "After that we'll see. 1 week." 1 week. Eleanor held out her hand. Jesse stared at it for a moment, then took it. His grip was warm and calloused and real. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet." Jesse released her hand. "You might regret asking." "I won't." "You don't know that." "No." Eleanor smiled the first real smile she'd felt in months. "But I believe it anyway." That night, after the children were asleep, Eleanor found herself standing by the window watching the stars emerge through the breaking clouds. The storm had passed, leaving the world white and silent and new. Jesse came to stand beside her. "You should sleep," he said. "Been a long couple days." "I can't." Eleanor hugged herself. "Keep thinking about what comes next. About Wade. About whether we'll make it through winter." "You'll make it." "How do you know?" "Because you've made it this far." Jesse's voice was quiet. "Because you're stronger than you think. Because those children need you, and you'll tear the world apart before you let them down." Eleanor turned to look at him. In the dim light, his face was all shadows and angles, the scar a dark line across his cheek. "Tell me something true," she said suddenly. "Something real. Something you haven't told anyone else." Jesse was silent for a long moment. "My son's name was William," he said finally. "He was 4 years old. He had his mother's eyes and my stubborn streak, and every night I was home, he'd climb into my lap and ask me to tell him stories about horses." His voice roughened. "I never got to say goodbye. Never got to tell him I loved him one last time, and there isn't a day goes by I don't think about that." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "My husband didn't die in an accident." The words came out before she could stop them. "He was murdered. Wade's men made it look like a mining collapse, but I know the truth. I've always known." Her voice shook. "And I've never told anyone because I was afraid. Afraid of what Wade would do. Afraid of what it would mean." Jesse went very still. "You're sure?" "Henry found out Wade was cheating miners, paying them half what he owed, keeping the rest. He was going to tell the territorial marshal." Eleanor's hands clenched. 3 days later he was dead. "Does Wade know you know?" "I don't know. Maybe. Maybe that's why he's been trying so hard to break me. Maybe he wants to make sure I never talk." Jesse's expression had changed. Something harder had entered his eyes. Something dangerous. "This changes things," he said quietly. "What do you mean?" "I mean, Wade isn't just a bully trying to steal your land. He's a murderer protecting himself." Jesse turned to face her fully. "That makes him desperate. Desperate men do desperate things." "I know. You should have told me. I'm telling you now." Jesse studied her face in the dim light. Whatever he saw there seemed to decide something. "1 week might not be enough," he said. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I'm saying maybe I stay longer than a week. Maybe I stay until this is finished." "You said you'd bring trouble." "Trouble's already here." Jesse's jaw set. "Might as well be useful trouble." Eleanor felt something loosen in her chest. Something that had been wound tight for 8 months. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care so much?" Jesse was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "Because I couldn't save my family. Couldn't do anything but bury them and ride away." He looked at her, and she saw the pain he carried. "But maybe I can save yours. Maybe that's why I ended up here in this town on that street, at the exact moment you needed someone. Maybe this is my chance to finally do something right." Eleanor reached out and touched his arm. Just briefly. Just enough to say what words couldn't. "Then stay," she said. "As long as you need to. As long as we need you." Jesse nodded once, and somewhere in the darkness outside the sound of hoofbeats echoed across the snow. "Jesse!" Eleanor's voice tightened. Someone's coming. He was already moving, grabbing his rifle from beside the door. Get the children up. Quiet. Move them to the back room. Who would be out and... Just do it. Eleanor ran to wake the children, her heart pounding. Samuel was already alert, reaching for the old shotgun Henry had left behind. Stay with your mother, Jessie said quietly. Don't come out unless I call for you. But... Samuel! Jessie's voice was iron. Protect your family. That's your job right now. Can you do that? The boy's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Jessie slipped out the door into the cold night. Eleanor gathered her children in the back room, her arms wrapped around as many as she could reach, listening to the silence that followed. The hoofbeats stopped. Voices, low and muffled. She couldn't make out words. Then Jessie's voice, calm and steady. That's far enough. We're not looking for trouble, friend. A man's voice, unfamiliar. Just looking for someone? Nobody here but a widow and her children. That's so. A pause. See, we heard different. Heard there was a man matching a certain description seen in town yesterday. Tall, dark hair, scar on his face. Eleanor's blood ran cold. Lot of men fit that description. Not many with a $500 bounty on their head. Eleanor pressed her hand over her mouth to keep from crying out. $500. These men weren't Wade's people. They were bounty hunters, and they were looking for Jessie. You got the wrong man, Jessie said. I'm just a drifter passing through. Then you won't mind coming with us. Let the marshal sort it out. And if I do mind? A long silence. Then we've got a problem, friend, because we didn't ride all night through a blizzard to leave empty-handed. Eleanor heard the click of a gun being cocked. Mama, Samuel breathed. What do we do? Eleanor looked at her children. 7 faces pale and frightened in the darkness. 7 lives depending on what happened in the next few minutes. She made a decision. Stay here. She pressed a kiss to Samuel's forehead. All of you, stay here and stay quiet. Mama, promise me. I promise. Eleanor stood and walked out of the back room, through the cabin, to the front door. She opened it and stepped into the cold night air. Mrs. Dawson, Jessie's voice was tight. Get back inside. No. Eleanor walked forward until she stood beside him. These men want to take you. I'm not going to let them. The bounty hunters, 3 of them mounted on horses, stared at her. The leader, a thick man with a beard, laughed. Lady, this ain't your fight. This man saved my life. Eleanor's voice didn't waver. Saved my children's lives. He's been nothing but kind since he arrived. I don't care what bounty you think you're chasing. You're not taking him. $500 says otherwise. Then I'll match it. The words hung in the frozen air. Jessie turned to stare at her. The bounty hunters exchanged glances. Lady, you don't have $500. You don't have $5 from the look of this place. I have land. Eleanor's chin lifted. 160 acres with water rights, worth more than $500. I'll sign it over to you right now if you ride away and forget you ever saw this man. Eleanor, Jessie's voice was strangled. Don't. It's my choice. It's everything you have. No. Eleanor turned to look at him. My children are everything I have. This land is just dirt. It doesn't matter without someone to help me hold it. The bounty hunters muttered among themselves. She's bluffing, one said. I'm not. Eleanor reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded paper. The deed to the land. She'd kept it close since Henry died, afraid Wade would try to steal it. It's all legal. Take it and go. The leader dismounted. He walked toward her, his hand outstretched. Eleanor, don't do this. Jessie stepped between them. I ain't worth it. That's not your decision. These men will take your land and take me anyway. You know that. Maybe. Eleanor met his eyes. But maybe not. Maybe they've got enough honor to keep a deal. Honor. The bounty hunter laughed. Lady, there ain't no honor in this business. Then find some. Eleanor's voice hardened. Find some tonight in this moment and walk away richer than you came. Or stay and fight and maybe get the bounty, but maybe not. Your choice. The bounty hunter studied her face. Then he looked at Jessie. Then at the cabin behind them, where 7 children huddled in the darkness. Hell. He shook his head. Keep your land, lady. Keep your man, too. What? His companions shifted in their saddles. Jake the bounty is on a man named Cole Brennan. The bounty hunter. Jake turned to look at Jessie. And this ain't him. Eleanor's breath caught. Cole Brennan's got blue eyes, Jake continued. This man's eyes are brown. Could see it even in the dark. He mounted his horse. We got the wrong man. Happens sometimes. Jake. I said we got the wrong man. Jake's voice was final. Now let's ride before we freeze to death. They turned their horses and disappeared into the night. Eleanor stood frozen until the hoofbeats faded completely. Then her knees buckled, and Jessie caught her before she hit the ground. You fool woman. His voice was rough. You wonderful fool woman. Did it work? I don't know. Jessie held her up, his arms strong and warm. I don't know what just happened, but you were willing to give up everything to save a man you barely know. I know enough. You don't know anything. Then tell me. Eleanor pulled back to look at him. Tell me who Cole Brennan is. Tell me why there's a bounty on your head. Tell me what you're running from. Jessie was silent for a long moment. The cold pressed in around them, but neither moved. Not tonight, he said finally. Tonight we go inside. We warm up. We make sure the children are all right. But tomorrow, he took a breath. Tomorrow, I'll tell you everything. Promise? Promise. They went inside together. Morning came too fast. Eleanor hadn't slept. She'd lain awake listening to Jessie's breathing from across the room, watching the shadows shift on the ceiling, thinking about bounty hunters and $500, and the man who'd nearly sacrificed everything to protect her family. Now she sat at the table, coffee cooling in her hands, waiting. Jessie came in from outside, stamping snow from his boots. He'd been up before dawn, checking the horses, scanning the horizon, looking for more riders. Nothing, he said before she could ask. Whoever they were, they're gone. For now. For now. He sat down across from her. Children still asleep. Samuel's awake. He's in the back with the others. I told him to keep them there. Jessie nodded. He wrapped his hands around his own coffee cup, and Eleanor saw the tension in his shoulders, the weight of what he was about to say. Cole Brennan, she said quietly. That's your real name. It was. Jessie's voice was rough. Haven't used it in 8 years. Why? He was silent for a long moment. The fire crackled. Somewhere in the back room, one of the children coughed. Because Cole Brennan was a killer. Jessie looked at her, and she saw the old pain in his eyes. After Sarah and William died, I went dark. Spent 2 years drinking myself half to death. Then I sobered up enough to get angry, and I spent the next 4 years making sure everyone who'd ever wronged me paid for it. Eleanor's hands tightened on her cup. What does that mean? It means I hunted men. Took bounties, yes, but not just lawful ones. Anyone who had money and wanted someone dead could hire Cole Brennan to make it happen. His jaw worked. I killed 11 men, Eleanor. Some deserved it. Some probably didn't. I stopped caring about the difference. The words hung in the cold air between them. Why did you stop? Because I looked in a mirror one day and didn't recognize what I saw. Jessie's voice dropped. I'd become something Sarah would have been ashamed of, something William would have been afraid of. So I put Cole Brennan in a grave and started walking. Changed my name. Changed my life. Tried to become someone different. And did you? I don't know. He looked at her with raw honesty. I thought I had. But last night when those men came, part of me wanted to kill them, Eleanor. Part of me wanted to put a bullet in each of their heads and leave them in the snow. That part of me isn't gone. It's just sleeping." Eleanor set down her cup. Her hands were trembling, but not from fear, from something else, something that surprised her. "You didn't, though." "What?" "Kill them. You didn't. You could have, but you didn't." "That doesn't make me—" "It makes you different." Eleanor reached across the table and touched his hand. "The man you used to be wouldn't have helped a starving widow, wouldn't have fixed her roof or fed her children or stayed when he could have run. Whatever you were, Jessie, it's not what you are now." He stared at her like she'd spoken in a foreign language. "You should be afraid of me." "Should I?" Eleanor's chin lifted. "I've spent 8 months being afraid of Vernon Wade. I've spent 3 years being afraid of losing my children. I'm tired of being afraid." She squeezed his hand. "And I'm not going to start fearing the one person who's actually helped us." Jesse turned his hand over his calloused fingers wrapping around hers. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met or the most foolish. Maybe both." Something passed between them in that moment. A recognition. A choice. A line crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. "Mama!" Samuel's voice came from the doorway. "Is everything all right?" Eleanor pulled her hand back, her cheeks heating. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Come sit down." Samuel entered slowly, his eyes moving between his mother and Jessie. He was old enough to notice things, old enough to ask questions. "I heard what you said." Samuel sat down at the table. "About killing people. About who you used to be." "Samuel," Eleanor started. "It's all right." Jessie met the boy's gaze. "He's got a right to know. He's protecting this family too." Samuel's jaw tightened. "Are you dangerous?" "Yes." "Are you dangerous to us?" "No." Jessie's voice was firm. "Never. I'd cut off my own hand before I'd hurt your mother or any of you children." "Why should I believe you?" "Because I'm still here." Jessie leaned forward. "Because I stayed when I could have left. Because last night I had every reason to run and didn't. But mostly because your mother believes me and she's smarter than both of us." Samuel looked at Eleanor. She nodded. "He's telling the truth, Samuel. I trust him. I need you to trust me." The boy was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. "Okay. But if you hurt her—" He looked at Jessie. "If you hurt any of them, I don't care how dangerous you are. I'll find a way to make you pay." "Fair enough." Jessie extended his hand. "Deal." Samuel shook it. "Deal." The other children woke hungry and curious. Jessie made breakfast while Eleanor explained in simpler terms that some bad men had come in the night but had gone away, and that Jessie was going to stay and help them for a while. "How long?" Grace asked. "As long as you need me," Jessie said. Martha tugged at his sleeve. "Forever." Something flickered across Jessie's face, pain and hope and fear all tangled together. "As long as I can," he said finally. "How's that?" "Good." Martha wrapped her arms around his waist. "I like you, Mr. Jesse." "Just Jesse." His voice was rough. "And I like you too, little miss." Eleanor watched her daughter hug this man, this former killer, this drifter, this stranger who'd become something else entirely, and felt her heart crack open just a little more. The moment shattered when hoofbeats echoed outside. Jesse was on his feet instantly, rifle in hand. "Back room, all of you, now!" The children scattered. Eleanor grabbed the shotgun and moved to the window. "It's not bounty hunters," she said, her voice tight. "It's Wade." Vernon Wade rode up to the cabin with 4 men behind him. Not his usual thugs, these were dressed better, carried themselves with authority, legal authority. Jesse stepped onto the porch, rifle loose but ready. "That's far enough." Wade pulled up his horse, a smile spreading across his fat face. "Mr. Calhoun, or should I say Mr. Brennan, I've heard some interesting things about you since yesterday." Eleanor's blood chilled. He knew. Somehow, he already knew. "Whatever you heard," Jesse said calmly, "isn't your concern." "Oh, but it is." Wade gestured to the men behind him. "See, these gentlemen are from the Territorial Marshal's office. They're very interested in meeting the famous Cole Brennan. $500 bounty, isn't it? For murder." Those charges were dropped. Jesse's voice didn't waver. 2 years ago. Governor's pardon. Wade's smile faltered, just slightly. "What?" "You heard me. I did some work for the territory up in Montana. Helped bring in a gang of cattle rustlers. Governor gave me a full pardon in exchange for my services." Jesse tilted his head. "You really should do better research before you ride out here trying to arrest a man." The marshals exchanged glances. "That true?" one of them asked Wade. He's lying. He has to be lying. You want to call the governor's office and check?" Jesse kept his voice steady. "Telegraph line in town works fine, last I saw." Wade's face had gone purple. "This isn't over, Brennan. I know what you are. I know what you've done. And I know what you've done too." Jesse stepped forward, his voice dropping. "I know about Henry Dawson. I know about the mine. I know about the men you paid to make it look like an accident." Wade went white. "That's a lie." "Is it?" Jesse smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I've been asking around, Wade. Turns out people don't like you much. Turns out they're willing to talk when someone actually listens. You can't prove anything." "Maybe not. But the territorial marshal might be interested in investigating anyway." Jesse looked at the men behind Wade. "You gentlemen hear any of that?" "About a man named Henry Dawson who died in a mining accident 8 months ago. About how the widow's been harassed ever since." The marshals shifted uncomfortably. "We're not here for that," one said. "We're here about the bounty." "And I told you there is no bounty. I'm a pardoned man. You want to check, go check. But you're not taking me anywhere without legal cause." A long, tense silence. Then the lead marshal turned his horse. "We'll verify your story," he said. "If it's true, you won't see us again. If it's not..." "It's true." The marshals rode away. Wade lingered, his face twisted with rage. "This isn't over," he hissed. "No," Jesse agreed. "It isn't. But next time you come here, you'd better bring more than hired guns and empty threats. Because I'm not going anywhere, Wade. And I'm not afraid of you." Wade spurred his horse and galloped away, his men following. Eleanor burst onto the porch. "A pardon? You have a pardon." "I do." Jesse lowered his rifle. "Should have mentioned it last night, but I wasn't sure if it would matter. Some men don't care about pardons." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because the pardon doesn't change what I did." Jesse turned to face her. "It just means the law can't touch me for it. The guilt's still mine to carry." Eleanor stared at him. This man who kept revealing new layers, new depths, new reasons to trust him and fear him, and something else she wasn't ready to name. "Come inside," she said finally. "We need to talk about what happens next." They gathered at the table, Eleanor, Jesse, and Samuel. The other children played quietly in the back room, unaware of the danger that had just passed, and the danger still coming. "Wade knows about the pardon now," Jesse said. "He won't try that angle again. But he's not going to stop." "He killed my husband." Eleanor's voice was steady. "He's not going to let that threat hang over him." "Which means he'll get desperate." Jesse's jaw tightened. "Desperate men do stupid things. Dangerous things." "So what do? We build a case against him. Get people to talk on record this time. Write to the territorial marshal, the real one, not Wade's pocket marshals. Make enough noise that he can't just make us disappear." "That could take months." "You have a better idea." Eleanor was quiet. She didn't. "There's something else." Jesse hesitated. "The bounty hunters last night, they said Cole Brennan has blue eyes. I've got brown. That's why they left." So someone sent them here. Someone told them exactly where to find me. Jesse's face was grim. That someone knew I was here, knew my old name, knew about the bounty. That someone wanted me gone. Eleanor's stomach dropped. Wade. Has to be. But how did he know I've been careful? Haven't used that name in years. Haven't told anyone. Someone recognized you. Maybe. Or... Jesse stopped. Or what? Or someone talked. He looked at Samuel. You tell anyone about me, son. Anyone at all. No. Samuel's voice was firm. I haven't been to town since you got here. Martha Grace. They haven't left the cabin. Eleanor's mind raced. I haven't talked to anyone either. Not since that day in front of Wade's store. Then how did he know? The question hung in the air, unanswered and unsettling. 3 days passed. The weather held cold but clear, and Jesse used the time to fortify the cabin. Teach Samuel how to handle a rifle properly and plan for whatever Wade would do next. Eleanor watched him work, watched him laugh with her children, watched him become part of their lives in ways she hadn't expected. He was patient with the little ones, firm but fair with Samuel and with her. With her, he was careful, respectful, keeping a distance she hadn't asked for but somehow appreciated, like he was giving her time to decide what she wanted, who she wanted. On the third evening after the children were asleep, they sat together by the fire. I've been thinking, Jesse said quietly, about what happens after. After what? After Wade. After this is settled one way or another. He stared into the flames. I can't stay forever, Eleanor. You know that. Something cold settled in her chest. I know. I'm not a farmer, not a rancher. I don't know how to build things, only how to protect them. Once Wade's gone, you won't need protection anymore. So you'll leave. I should. He turned to look at her. But I'm not sure I want to. Eleanor's breath caught. What do you mean? I mean... Jesse struggled for words. I mean, I've been running for 8 years, moving from town to town, never staying, never letting myself care about anyone. It was easier that way, safer. And now I sit in this broken-down cabin with your children climbing all over me, and your voice in my ears and your face in my head, and I think, maybe I'm tired of running. His eyes held hers. Maybe I'm tired of being alone. Eleanor's heart pounded against her ribs. Jesse. I'm not asking for anything. He held up his hand. I know you loved your husband. I know I'm nobody, a drifter, a killer, a man with nothing to offer but a gun and a past that won't stay buried. He stopped, swallowed. I just wanted you to know that if things were different, if I was different. You're not nobody. Eleanor moved closer to him. You're the man who saved my children, who saved me, who stayed when everyone else walked away. That doesn't make me worthy of you. Maybe I get to decide that. She reached up and touched his face. His breath caught. His hand came up to cover hers, pressing her palm against his scarred cheek. Eleanor, I'm tired too, Jesse. Her voice was barely a whisper. Tired of being alone. Tired of being afraid. Tired of pretending I don't feel something when I look at you. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. She kissed him. It was soft at first, tentative, two wounded people remembering how to hope. Then his arms came around her, pulling her close, and the kiss deepened into something that felt like coming home. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jesse rested his forehead against hers. This is a bad idea. Probably. Wade's still out there. My past isn't going away. There are 100 reasons this can't work. I know. Eleanor smiled against his lips. Kiss me again anyway. He did. They sat together until the fire burned low, talking in quiet voices about everything and nothing. About her childhood in Philadelphia and his in Texas. About Henry and Sarah and the people they'd loved and lost. About the children and their fears and their hopes. "Samuel doesn't trust me," Jesse said at one point. "Samuel doesn't trust anyone, not anymore. But he's watching you, learning. Give him time." "What about the others?" "They adore you, especially Martha." Eleanor laughed softly. "She told me yesterday she wants to marry you when she grows up." Jesse's face did something complicated. "That's—" "She's 10. It's a compliment." Still what?" Jesse was quiet for a moment. "I never thought I'd have this again. Any of this. A family. A home. Someone who looked at me the way you do." "How do I look at you?" "Like I'm worth something." His voice cracked. "Like I matter." Eleanor cupped his face in her hands. "You do matter, Jesse. Whatever you did before, whoever you were, that's not who you are now. And who you are now—" She kissed him softly. "That man matters to me. To all of us." A sound outside. Hoofbeats. More than one horse. Jesse was on his feet before Eleanor could react. "Get the children," he said, his voice hard. "Wake Samuel. Move everyone to the root cellar. Jesse. Go." Eleanor ran. She gathered her children as fast as she could, hushing their frightened questions, pushing them toward the cellar door behind the cabin. Samuel helped, his young face pale but determined. "Stay down here," Eleanor whispered. "Don't come out until I come get you." "Mama, don't go back out there." Grace clung to her arm. "Please." "I have to, sweetheart. Jesse needs me. Let me come." Samuel's voice was fierce. "I can help." "No." Eleanor gripped his shoulders. "Your job is to protect them, all of them, no matter what happens up there. Promise me." Samuel's jaw worked. "I promise." Eleanor kissed each of her children, burning their faces into her memory, then climbed out of the cellar and closed the door behind her. The cabin was dark. Jesse crouched by the window, rifle ready. "How many?" Eleanor whispered, taking position beside him with the shotgun. "6. Maybe 7. Can't tell in the dark." "Wade?" "Probably." A voice rang out from the darkness. "Calhoun or Brennan, or whatever you call yourself. We know you're in there." Not Wade's voice. Rougher. Meaner. "I've got a proposition for you," the voice continued. "Come out now, and the widow and her brats live. Make us come in there, and everyone dies. Your choice." Jesse's grip tightened on his rifle. "Don't." Eleanor grabbed his arm. "Don't even think about it. If I go out there, they'll kill you. Then they'll kill us anyway. You know that. I can't let you die for me. And I can't let you die for nothing." Eleanor's voice was fierce. "We fight together or we don't fight at all." Jesse looked at her. In the dim light, his eyes held fear and love, and something that looked like acceptance. "Together," he said quietly. "Together." Outside, the voice was getting impatient. "You've got 1 minute, Calhoun. Then we start shooting." Jesse moved to the back window, scanning the darkness. "There's a gap in their line. South side near the barn. If we can get to the horses, we're not leaving the children. We get the horses, circle back, create a distraction, draw them away from the cabin. And then we pray we're better shots than they are." Eleanor gripped her shotgun tighter. "I haven't fired this thing in 2 years. You remember how—" "I think so." "Good enough." Jesse moved toward the back door. "Stay close, stay quiet, and whatever happens, don't stop moving." They slipped out into the cold night. The snow crunched under Eleanor's boots, too loud in the silence. She pressed herself against the cabin wall, heart slamming against her ribs, shotgun clutched in trembling hands. Jessie moved ahead of her, fluid and silent. A predator's walk. She'd seen glimpses of Cole Brennan before, but now she saw him fully, the killer her husband's murderer had tried to use against her. 2 by the barn, Jessie breathed. 1 near the well. 3 more in front. That's 6. The voice said maybe 7. Keep your eyes open. They edged along the wall. Eleanor's breath came in short, visible puffs. Somewhere in the darkness, men waited to kill them. Now! Jessie grabbed her hand, and they ran. The first shot cracked through the night before they'd gone 10 feet. Eleanor felt the bullet whiz past her ear. Jessie shoved her behind the water trough and returned fire in one smooth motion. A man screamed. 1 down, Jessie said calmly. Stay low. Jessie, behind you. He spun and fired. Another body hit the snow. 2 down. Gunfire erupted from multiple directions. Eleanor pressed herself into the frozen ground, the shotgun heavy in her hands. She'd never shot at a person before. Never imagined she'd have to. Eleanor! Jessie's voice cut through the chaos. The barn, move! She ran. Bullets kicked up snow around her feet. She heard Jessie firing behind her, covering her retreat, and then she was through the barn door, gasping for breath, alive. Jessie followed seconds later, blood running down his arm. You're hit. Graze. It's nothing. He was reloading, his movements fast and precise. They're regrouping. We've got maybe a minute before they rush us. How many left? 4. Maybe 5. Eleanor gripped her shotgun. Her hands had stopped shaking. Fear had burned away, replaced by something colder, something harder. Give me a target. Jessie looked at her. For a moment, something like pride flickered in his eyes. Barn door. When they come through, you fire. Both barrels. Don't think just shoot. And you. I'll be in the loft. Crossfire. They won't know what hit them. He was gone before she could respond, climbing the ladder like he'd done it 1,000 times. Eleanor positioned herself behind a hay bale shotgun aimed at the door. Waiting. Waiting. The door burst open. Eleanor fired. The recoil slammed her shoulder back, but she didn't fall, didn't flinch. She watched the first man crumple, watched the second, stumble, watched Jessie's rifle crack from above, and drop the third. Then silence. Hold your position, Jessie called down. Don't move. Eleanor stayed, frozen ears straining. Her hands were steady now. Her mind was clear. She'd just killed a man, maybe 2. She should feel something, horror, guilt, shame. She felt nothing but cold determination. Footsteps outside, slow, careful. Calhoun? Wade's voice high and reedy with fear. This is over. You've killed my men. You've made your point. Let's talk. Nothing to talk about. Jessie's voice came from the loft. Right away, Wade, now, while you still can. I can't do that. Wade sounded closer. You know too much. The widow knows too much. I can't just... You killed her husband. Jessie's voice was ice. You've been trying to steal her land, ruin her reputation, starve her children. And now you've come here with guns to finish the job. There's nothing to talk about. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Wade's voice cracked. Henry Dawson was going to destroy me. Everything I'd built. I had no choice. There's always a choice. Easy for you to say. You've got nothing to lose. You're wrong about that. Jessie dropped from the loft landing, soft as a cat. He moved to stand beside Eleanor, his rifle trained on the door. I've got everything to lose. That's why I'm going to protect it. Wade appeared in the doorway. His fine clothes were disheveled, his face pale and sweating despite the cold. He held a pistol, but his hand shook so badly he could barely keep it aimed. I'll make you a deal, he said desperately. The land, take it. I'll sign over the deed, walk away, never bother you again. Just let me live. The land isn't yours to give, Eleanor said. It's mine. It was always mine. Eleanor, please. Wade turned to her, and she saw the terror in his eyes. I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted... You wanted me. Eleanor's voice was flat. You wanted my land. You killed my husband to get both. Don't pretend this was ever about anything else. I loved you. You don't know what love is. Wade's face twisted. The fear drained away, replaced by something ugly, something desperate. Then I've got nothing left to lose either. He raised his pistol. Jesse fired first. Wade's gun flew from his hand. He screamed, clutching his shattered wrist, blood spraying across the snow. I could have killed you, Jesse said calmly. Remember that. He walked forward and kicked Wade's pistol away, then pressed the rifle barrel against the man's forehead. Give me one reason not to finish this. Jesse. Eleanor's voice was quiet. Don't. He killed your husband. He tried to kill you. Kill your children. I know. She moved to stand beside him. But if you kill him now like this, it's murder. And you'll be running again. Forever. Maybe that's worth it. It's not. Eleanor put her hand on his arm. Let the law handle him. Let everyone see what he is, what he's done. Let him rot in prison while his empire crumbles. That's a worse punishment than a bullet. Jesse's jaw worked. His finger tightened on the trigger. Please, Eleanor whispered. For me? For us. Don't become Cole Brennan again. A long, terrible moment. Then slowly, Jesse lowered the rifle. Get up, he said to Wade. You're going to town. You're going to confess. And if you try anything at all, I'll finish what I started. Wade staggered to his feet, cradling his ruined hand. His face was gray with pain and shock. You won't get away with this. I've got friends, connections, the territorial governor. The territorial governor is going to be very interested in your business practices. A new voice, calm and authoritative. Especially the bribes you've been paying to territorial officials. Everyone turned. A man rode out of the darkness, tall, silver-haired, wearing a marshal's badge that gleamed in the moonlight. Behind him came a dozen more riders, all armed. Who the hell are you? Wade sputtered. U.S. Marshal Thomas Reeves. The man dismounted, his eyes sweeping the carnage. I've been investigating Vernon Wade for 6 months. Got word last week that something was about to break, so I pushed up my timeline. He looked at Jesse. You must be Calhoun, or Brennan, depending on who's asking. Calhoun will do. Governor's pardon, right? I checked. It's legitimate. Reeves turned to Eleanor. Mrs. Dawson, I'm sorry it took so long to get here. We've been building a case, but we needed proof. You've got it now. Eleanor's voice was steady. He confessed. You heard him. He killed my husband. I heard. Reeves nodded to his men. Take Mr. Wade into custody. Carefully. He's going to have a lot of questions to answer. 2 marshals grabbed Wade and dragged him away. He was screaming threats, pleas, denials, but the words faded as they moved into the darkness. Eleanor's legs gave out. Jesse caught her before she hit the ground. I've got you, he murmured. It's over. It's done. The children. Eleanor clutched his shirt. I have to get to the children. They're safe. The cellar's untouched. I have to see them. I have to... I'll take you. Jesse lifted her in his arms like she weighed nothing. I've got you, Eleanor. I've got you. The root cellar door creaked open, and 7 terrified faces looked up. Mama. Grace scrambled up the ladder first, throwing herself into Eleanor's arms. The others followed Martha, Tommy, the twins, little Ben, and finally Samuel, his face pale but controlled. Is it over? Samuel asked Jesse. It's over. Wade? Arrested. U.S. Marshals. He's going to prison for a long time. Samuel's jaw loosened. For a moment he looked like the 12-year-old boy he was, instead of the man he'd been trying to be. You saved us, he said quietly. You saved my mother. We saved each other. Jesse put his hand on the boy's shoulder. Your mother's the bravest woman I've ever known. You should be proud of her. I am. Samuel's eyes glistened. I always have been. Eleanor gathered her children around her, holding them close, breathing them in. They were alive, all of them. After everything, the hunger, the fear, the violence, they were alive. Let's go inside, she said finally. It's cold out here. The cabin was still standing, still warm from the fire Jesse had built before everything went wrong. Eleanor settled the children in front of the hearth, wrapped them in blankets, held them until they stopped shaking. Marshal Reeves appeared in the doorway. Mrs. Dawson, I'm sorry to intrude, but I need statements, from both of you. Can it wait until morning? I'm afraid not. Wade's already trying to spin this. The sooner we get your account on record, the better. Eleanor looked at Jesse. He nodded. Go, he said. I'll stay with the children. Are you sure? I'm sure. Eleanor kissed each of her children, then followed the marshal outside. They talked for over an hour. Eleanor told him everything. Henry's death, Wade's harassment, the threats, the attack. Reeves wrote it all down, his face growing grimmer with each detail. We suspected he was dirty, Reeves said finally. But this is worse than we imagined. Will it be enough to convict him? With your testimony, Calhoun's testimony, and the evidence we've already gathered, Reeves nodded. He'll hang Mrs. Dawson, or spend the rest of his life in prison. Either way, he's finished. Eleanor should have felt satisfaction, victory, something. Instead, she just felt tired. What happens now? Now you rebuild. Your land is safe. Your claim is solid. Wade's assets will be seized, and a portion will go to his victims, including you. Reeves stood. You're going to be all right, Mrs. Dawson. I know it doesn't feel like it now, but you are. He tipped his hat and walked away. Eleanor stood alone in the cold, staring up at the stars. The same stars she'd looked at a week ago when she'd had nothing, when she'd been dying. Now she had everything, and she had no idea what to do with it. Eleanor. She turned. Jesse stood a few feet away watching her. Children are asleep, he said. Samuel's keeping watch, but they're all settled. Good. She hugged herself. That's good. You should sleep too. I can't. Eleanor shook her head. Every time I close my eyes, I killed a man tonight, Jesse. Maybe two. I pulled the trigger and watched them fall, and I didn't feel anything. What kind of person does that make me? The kind who protects her children. Jesse moved closer. The kind who survives. I don't feel like I survived. I feel like I lost something. Some part of myself I can't get back. Maybe. Jesse's voice was gentle. Or maybe you just found out how strong you really are. Sometimes those feel like the same thing. Eleanor looked at him, this man who'd walked through fire and kept walking. Who'd done terrible things and chosen to be better. Who'd saved her family and asked for nothing in return. Stay, she said suddenly. What? Stay. Not just tonight. Not just until this is settled. Stay. Her voice cracked. I know it's crazy. I know we barely know each other. But these past few days you've been more of a partner to me than anyone since Henry died. You've been more of a father to my children than they've had in 8 months. And She stopped, struggling for words. You what? Jesse's voice was rough. I love you. The words came out in a rush. I don't know how it happened or when, but I do. I love you, Jesse Calhoun, and I want you to stay. Jesse was silent for so long, Eleanor thought she'd made a terrible mistake. Then he closed the distance between them and kissed her. It wasn't like their first kiss, tentative questioning. This was desperate and fierce, and full of everything they'd been holding back. Eleanor clung to him, feeling the solid warmth of his body, the strength of his arms, the beat of his heart against hers. I love you too, Jesse said against her lips. God help me, I do. Then stay. It won't be easy. I'm not an easy man. I've got a past that won't stay buried, habits I'm still trying to break. I don't care. Eleanor, I don't care. She pulled back to look at him. I've spent the last year being careful, being practical, being afraid. Where did it get me starving in front of Wade's store with my children crying behind me? Her voice strengthened. You're the first good thing that's happened to us in 8 months. The first person who saw us, really saw us, and decided we were worth helping. I'm not letting that go. I'm not letting you go. So stop trying to talk me out of it and just say yes. Jesse stared at her. Then slowly a smile spread across his face. Yes. Yes. Yes, Eleanor Dawson. I'll stay. As long as you'll have me. Eleanor laughed, a real laugh, full and bright and unexpected. She hadn't laughed like that in so long she'd almost forgotten how. Come inside, she said, taking his hand. It's cold out here. They walked into the cabin together. The next few days were a blur of activity. Marshal Reeves and his men came and went, gathering evidence, taking statements, building their case against Wade. The town buzzed with gossip and shock as the full scope of Wade's crimes came to light. Some people came to apologize. The women who'd watched Eleanor beg outside the store. The men who'd looked away when she needed help. They came with food and offers of assistance, shame written on their faces. Eleanor accepted their apologies. She didn't forget, but she accepted. You're more forgiving than I'd be, Jesse said one evening. It's not forgiveness. Eleanor watched Martha play with a new doll, a gift from a neighbor who'd once refused to meet her eyes. It's practicality. These people are going to be our neighbors for a long time. Better to make peace than hold grudges. Still, after everything they didn't do, they were afraid. Wade had power over them, same as he had over me. Eleanor shrugged. Fear makes people do terrible things, or not do things they should. I understand that better than anyone. Jesse was quiet for a moment. You really are the strongest person I've ever met. I don't feel strong. That's how I know you are. A week after the attack, Jesse asked Eleanor to walk with him. The children were settled with Samuel in charge, and the evening was clear and cold. Where are we going? Eleanor asked. Not far. There's something I want to show you. They walked to a small rise overlooking the property. From here, Eleanor could see everything, the cabin, the barn, the creek glittering in the moonlight. Her land, her home. I've been thinking, Jesse said slowly, about what comes next. And I think we should make this official. Eleanor's heart stuttered. What do you mean? Jesse reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. A ring, simple silver worn with age. This was my mother's, he said quietly. Only thing I have left of her. I've carried it for 20 years through everything. Never thought I'd have reason to use it. Jesse, I know it's fast. I know we've only known each other a few weeks, but I've spent 12 years running from everything that mattered, and I'm tired of running. He took her hand. I want to build something here, Eleanor, with you, with your children. I want to be a husband and a father and all the things I thought I'd lost forever. Tears streamed down Eleanor's face. Are you asking me to marry you? I'm asking if you'll have me. Jesse's voice was rough. Broken pieces and all. I can't promise I'll be perfect. Can't promise the past won't catch up with us. But I can promise I'll be here. Every day, for as long as I'm breathing. Eleanor looked at the ring, at this man who'd walked into her life and changed everything. Yes, she whispered. Yes. Yes, Jesse Calhoun. I'll marry you. He slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. We should tell the children, Eleanor said, laughing through her tears. In the morning. Jesse pulled her close. Tonight, let's just have this. They stood together on the rise, looking out at their future. I never thought I'd have this again, Jessie said quietly. A family. A home. Someone who looked at me and saw something worth keeping. You are worth keeping. Eleanor leaned into him. You always were. You just forgot. Maybe. His arms tightened around her. But you reminded me. You and those 7 children who decided to trust a stranger. They have good instincts. They have a good mother. The stars wheeled overhead. The cold pressed in around them. But Eleanor felt warm and safe and loved. For the first time in 8 months, she felt like she might actually survive this. Like there might actually be a future worth living for. Come on, she said finally. Let's go home. They walked back to the cabin together hand in hand, and Eleanor thought about all the days ahead. The hard work and the challenges, and the million small moments that would turn 2 strangers into a family. It wouldn't be easy. Nothing worth having ever was. But they'd face it together. And somehow, that made all the difference. The morning Eleanor told the children about the engagement, she expected questions, concerns, maybe even resistance from Samuel, who'd been so protective since his father died. She didn't expect Grace to burst into tears of joy. Really? The girl threw herself at Jessie. You're really staying forever. Forever's a long time. Jessie caught her, lifting her up. But I'm going to try. Martha tugged at his sleeve. Does this mean you're our pa now? If you want me to be. I want you to be. Tommy spoke up, his small voice fierce. I want a pa again. The twins nodded in unison. Ben just held up his arms, wanting to be held. Eleanor watched Jessie gather her children around him. This man who'd been alone for 12 years, who'd forgotten how to love, who'd thought he'd never have a family again. She watched him laugh as Martha climbed onto his back, watched him ruffle Tommy's hair, watched him hold Ben with the careful tenderness of a man who remembered what it meant to lose a child. Samuel. Jessie looked at her oldest. You've been quiet. Samuel stood apart, his arms crossed, his face unreadable. You don't have to call me Pa, Jessie said quietly. You had a father. A good one from everything I've heard. I'm not trying to replace him. Then what are you trying to do? Help. Protect. Be here when you need me. Jessie set Ben down and walked toward Samuel. I know you don't trust me. Not completely. And that's all right. Trust has to be earned. You saved our lives. That's not the same as being a father. No. Samuel's jaw worked. It's not. They stood facing each other, the boy who'd grown up too fast, and the man who'd lost everything. My pa taught me to fish, Samuel said finally. Can you fish? I can. He taught me to track deer, to read the weather, to know when a storm was coming. I can do those things too. He used to tell me stories at night. Samuel's voice cracked. About heroes and outlaws and men who did the right thing even when it was hard. Jessie was quiet for a moment. I'm not a hero, Samuel. I've done things I'm not proud of, things that would make your father ashamed. He met the boy's eyes. But I can tell you this, I loved a son once. I lost him. And there isn't a day goes by I don't wish I could have one more moment with him. One more story. One more chance to be the father he deserved. Samuel's eyes glistened. I can't replace your pa, Jessie continued. I wouldn't try. But I can be here. I can teach you what I know. I can protect your family with everything I have. And maybe if you give me time, I can earn something close to what he had. A long silence. The other children watched, barely breathing. Then Samuel extended his hand. Welcome to the family, Mr. Calhoun. Jessie took it. Jessie. Just Jessie. Jessie. Samuel's grip tightened. Don't make me regret this. I'll try not to. Eleanor wiped her eyes. Around her, the children exhaled, the tension breaking into something lighter. Martha started chattering about wedding dresses. Grace wanted to know if there would be cake. Tommy asked if Jesse would teach him to shoot. One thing at a time. Jesse laughed. First, we've got to survive the wedding. The weeks that followed were the busiest of Eleanor's life. Word spread through town about the engagement, and suddenly people who'd ignored her for months wanted to help. Mrs. Patterson from the Mercantile offered to make her dress. Old Mr. Hendricks volunteered to fix up the church. The women's auxiliary, led by Mrs. Crawford, the same Mrs. Crawford who'd watched Eleanor beg outside Wade's store, organized a reception. "I don't understand," Eleanor said to Jesse one evening. "These people wouldn't give me the time of day a month ago. Now they act like we're old friends." "You're not a threat anymore." Jesse was helping Samuel repair a fence, but he paused to look at her. "Wade's gone. His power's broken. They're not afraid anymore. So they're only kind when it's safe." "Most people are." Jesse shrugged. "Doesn't make it right, but it makes it human." "I don't know if I can forgive them." "You don't have to forgive them. Just decide whether you want to carry the anger or let it go." He drove another nail into the fence post. "Anger's heavy, Eleanor. Gets heavier the longer you hold it." She thought about that for a long time. The trial came in late February. Marshal Reeves sent word that Eleanor's testimony would be needed in Cheyenne. The journey was 2 days by wagon, and Jesse insisted on coming with her. "The children," Eleanor started. "Samuel's old enough to manage for a few days. We'll leave him with the Hendricks family just in case." Jesse's jaw set. "I'm not letting you face Wade alone. He's in chains. He can't hurt me. He can still talk, still lie, still try to twist things." Jesse took her hands. "I'm coming." End of discussion. The courtroom was packed. Half the territory had come to watch Vernon Wade answer for his crimes, and Eleanor felt every eye on her as she walked to the witness stand. Wade sat at the defendant's table, his face gray, his expensive clothes replaced with prison garb. His ruined hand was bandaged, and he looked smaller somehow, diminished. But when his eyes met hers, she saw the hatred still burning. "Mrs. Dawson," the prosecutor approached, "please tell the court about the events leading up to your husband's death." Eleanor told them everything. She told them about Henry's discovery of Wade's fraud, about the threats, about the accident that wasn't an accident, about 8 months of harassment, starvation, and fear. Her voice didn't waver. Her hands didn't shake. She looked Wade directly in the eyes and told the truth. When she finished, the courtroom was silent. "No further questions." The prosecutor sat down. Wade's lawyer stood. He was a thin man with cold eyes brought in from Denver to defend the indefensible. "Mrs. Dawson, you claim my client murdered your husband. Do you have proof?" "I have witnesses. Men who worked in the mine. Men who saw Wade's people there that day. Men who could be lying. Men who might have grudges. Men who were too afraid to speak until now." Eleanor's voice hardened. "Your client built an empire on fear. He bought lawmen and bribed officials and destroyed anyone who stood in his way. The only reason he's sitting in that chair is because one man had the courage to help me when no one else would." "Ah, yes, the infamous Cole Brennan." The lawyer smiled thinly. "Or should I say Jesse Calhoun, a man with his own history of violence, his own crimes. Pardoned crimes. Still, one might wonder about the reliability of testimony from a known killer." "Objection?" The prosecutor stood. "Mr. Calhoun is not on trial here." "Sustained." The judge glared at Wade's lawyer. "Keep your questions relevant, counselor." The lawyer shrugged, but the damage was done. Eleanor saw doubt flicker across some faces in the gallery. "No further questions." Eleanor stepped down, her heart pounding. Jesse caught her hand as she passed, squeezing once hard. "You did good," he murmured. "You did perfect." The trial lasted 3 days. Witness after witness came forward. Miners, shopkeepers, ranchers. People who'd been too afraid to speak, finally finding their voices. On the third day, the jury deliberated for less than an hour. Guilty. The foreman's voice rang through the courtroom. On all counts. Eleanor sagged against Jesse. Wade screamed denials, threats, promises of revenge, but the marshals dragged him away, and his voice faded into nothing. "It's over," she whispered. "It's over." Jesse held her close. "He's never going to hurt you again." They rode home through a late winter thaw. The snow was melting, revealing brown earth and the first hints of green. Spring was coming. New life. "When do you want to do this?" Jesse asked. "The wedding, I mean." "Soon." Eleanor leaned against his shoulder. "Before the planting season. Before life gets too busy." "How soon is soon?" 2 weeks. Jesse laughed. "That's ambitious. I've been waiting 8 months for something good to happen." Eleanor looked at him. "I don't want to wait anymore." "Then 2 weeks it is." The wedding was simple. Eleanor wore a dress Mrs. Patterson had made from fabric donated by a dozen women, each contributing what they could, each trying in their own way to make amends for months of silence. Jesse wore a borrowed suit that didn't quite fit his dark hair combed back, his scarred face solemn and nervous. The whole town came. Not because they were invited, but because they wanted to witness something good after so much bad. They filled the church to bursting, spilling out onto the street, craning to see. Eleanor walked down the aisle with Samuel at her side. "Ready," her son whispered. "Ready." They reached the altar. Samuel kissed her cheek, then stepped back to join his siblings in the front pew. Jesse took her hands. "You look beautiful," he said quietly. "You look terrified." "I am terrified." His lips twitched. "But I'm also happy. First time in 12 years I can say that." The preacher cleared his throat. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." Eleanor barely heard the words. She was lost in Jesse's eyes, brown and warm, and full of something she'd thought she'd never see again. Love. Real love. The kind that survived hardship and grew stronger. "Do you, Jesse Calhoun, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." "And do you, Eleanor Dawson, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "I do." "Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." The preacher smiled. "You may kiss the bride." Jesse cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. The church erupted in cheers. Eleanor heard her children shouting, heard the townspeople clapping, heard everything and nothing at once. When they finally broke apart, Jesse was grinning. "Mrs. Calhoun," he said, "has a nice ring to it. Don't get used to it. I might make you take my name. I'd wear it proudly." They turned to face their community, their neighbors, their friends, the people who'd finally remembered how to be decent. "Let's go home," Eleanor said. The reception lasted until dark. Someone produced a fiddle. Someone else brought out a guitar. There was dancing and laughter, and more food than Eleanor had seen in a year. The children ran wild with the other kids from town, their shrieks of joy echoing through the evening air. Martha taught Jessie a dance she'd learned from her father. Tommy fell asleep in Eleanor's lap. The twins ate so much cake they made themselves sick. It was perfect. Messy and chaotic, and absolutely perfect. Late in the evening, Eleanor found herself alone with Jessie on the edge of the celebration. "Tired?" he asked. "Exhausted. But the good kind. There's a good kind. There is now." They watched their children play 7 small figures darting through the crowd, laughing alive. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up," Jessie said quietly. "That this is some dream I'm having, and any minute I'll open my eyes and be alone again." "It's not a dream." "I know. But part of me can't believe it's real." He turned to look at her. "A month ago I was just passing through. Another town, another day, another stretch of empty road ahead. Now I've got a wife, 7 children, a home." "Regrets?" "Not a single one." Jessie pulled her close. "You saved me, Eleanor. You know that you pulled me out of the darkness and gave me something to live for. We saved each other." "Maybe." He kissed her forehead. Maybe that's how it's supposed to work. Two broken people finding each other, making something whole. A commotion near the barn drew their attention. Samuel was running toward them, his face pale. "Ma, Jesse, someone's here." Eleanor's blood chilled. "Who?" "I don't know. A man on horseback. He's asking for Cole Brennan." Jesse went very still. "Stay here," he said to Eleanor. "Jesse, stay here." His voice was hard. "Keep the children close." He walked toward the barn, and Eleanor watched him go. Watched the tension return to his shoulders. Watched Cole Brennan resurface in the way he moved. The man waiting by the barn was old. White-haired and weathered, with a marshal's badge on his chest. He sat his horse calmly watching Jesse approach. "Cole Brennan," the old man said. "Or Jesse Calhoun now, I hear." "Who's asking?" "Name's William Reeves, Thomas's father. He wrote to me about you." Jesse relaxed slightly. "Marshal Reeves, your son's a good man." "He is. Gets it from his mother." The old marshal dismounted. "He also told me what you did here, standing up to Wade, protecting that widow and her children." "I did what anyone would do." "No." Reeves shook his head. "You did what most people are too afraid to do. That's different." "What do you want?" Reeves reached into his saddlebag and pulled out a folded paper. "I want to offer you a job." Jesse stared at him. "A job?" "Deputy U.S. Marshal, Wyoming Territory." Reeves held out the paper. "There are men like Wade all over this territory, men who use power to crush the weak. We need people who aren't afraid to stand against them." "I'm not a lawman." "You could be. You've got the skills. More importantly, you've got the will." Reeves's eyes were sharp. "I know your history, Brennan. I know what you did, and I know what you were. But I also know men can change. And the man who saved that family isn't the same man who collected bounties 10 years ago." Jesse looked at the paper. Then he looked at Eleanor, standing with their children at the edge of the celebration. "I've got a family now," he said slowly. "I can't just ride off chasing outlaws. Wouldn't ask you to. This would be local, protecting settlers, keeping the peace, making sure men like Wade can't rise again." Reeves smiled. "You'd be home most nights. Your wife would hardly notice you were gone." "She'd notice." "Talk to her about it. Take your time. The offer stands whenever you're ready." Reeves mounted his horse and rode away into the darkness. Jesse walked back to Eleanor, the paper still in his hand. "What was that about?" she asked. "A job offer. Deputy Marshal." Eleanor's eyes widened. "You... a lawman?" "Strange, isn't it, Cole Brennan wearing a badge?" Jesse laughed, but there was wonder in it. "The old man thinks I could do some good. Help people like you. Stop men like Wade before they get too powerful." "What do you think?" Jesse was quiet for a moment. I think maybe that's what I was always supposed to do. Use what I know, the violence, the darkness, to protect instead of destroy." He looked at her. "But I won't do it if you don't want me to. I won't risk this family for anything." Eleanor took the paper from his hand. She read it slowly, then looked up at him. "You'd be good at this." "Maybe." "You would. You're already good at protecting people. This would just make it official. You don't mind. Mind." Eleanor shook her head. "Jesse, you saved my life. You saved my children. If you can do that for other families, other people who are desperate and alone..." She pressed the paper back into his hand. "Do it. Be the hero those people need." "I'm not a hero." "You're my hero." Eleanor kissed him. "That's enough for me." The months that followed were the happiest of Eleanor's life. Spring came, and with it the planting season. Jesse worked alongside Samuel, teaching him how to plow and plant and nurture the land. The other children helped too, even little Ben, who mostly just played in the dirt. In summer, Jesse took the deputy's badge. His first assignment was tracking down a gang of cattle rustlers. He was gone for 2 weeks, and Eleanor spent every night lying awake listening for hoofbeats. When he finally rode home dusty and tired, but alive, she threw herself into his arms and didn't let go for an hour. "I missed you," she said against his chest. "I missed you too." He held her tight. Every day. Every minute. "Did you catch them?" "Caught them. Brought them in." Jesse pulled back to look at her. "Nobody died, not even them." Eleanor touched his face. "That matters to you." "It does now." He kissed her palm. "I'm trying to be the man you think I am, the man your children need me to be." "You already are." Fall brought harvest and plenty. The cabin was warm now, fully repaired, expanded with a new room for the older boys. The barn was sturdy. The land was thriving. Eleanor looked at what they'd built and could hardly remember the starving woman who'd collapsed outside Wade's store. Winter came again. But this time, Eleanor wasn't afraid. She stood on the porch, watching Jesse teach the children to ride in the snow, their laughter ringing through the cold air. Samuel was 14 now, nearly a man helping Jesse with the younger ones. Martha had lost her shyness and bossed everyone around. Grace sang while she worked her voice pure and sweet. Tommy had started reading, consuming every book he could find. The twins were inseparable, finishing each other's sentences. Ben had grown out of his baby fat and followed Jesse everywhere like a shadow. And in Eleanor's belly, a new life was growing. She hadn't told Jesse yet. She was waiting for the right moment, the perfect time. But she knew, and the knowing filled her with a joy so deep it hurt. "Eleanor." Jesse rode up to the porch, cheeks red from cold. "You should be inside where it's warm." "I like watching you. Watching me make a fool of myself. Watching you be happy." Eleanor smiled. "Watching our family." Jesse dismounted and climbed the porch steps. He stood beside her, his arm around her waist, looking out at the children playing. "I never thought I'd have this again," he said quietly. "Any of this." "Neither did I. A year ago I was nobody. Just a man running from his past waiting to die. And now I'm somebody." His arm tightened around her. A husband, a father, a protector. All because a starving widow collapsed in front of a store and I couldn't walk away. "Best decision you ever made." "Only good one, maybe." He kissed her temple. "I love you, Eleanor Calhoun." "I love you too." She took his hand and pressed it to her belly. "And in about 7 months, you'll have another person to love." Jesse went still. "Eleanor, are you saying?" "I'm saying." She smiled through tears. "I'm saying we're having a baby, Jesse." His face transformed. Shock to wonder, to joy, to something that looked almost like fear. "A baby," he breathed. "Our baby. Our baby." He dropped to his knees, pressing his face against her belly, his whole body shaking. "I thought I'd lost this," he said, his voice muffled. "Forever. I thought I'd buried it with Sarah and William, and I'd never have it again." "You have it now." Eleanor ran her fingers through his hair. "We have it now. Together." Jesse looked up at her, his brown eyes wet with tears. "I don't deserve this." "Maybe not. But you've got it anyway." She pulled him to his feet. "Come inside. Let's tell the children." The children's reaction was everything Eleanor hoped for. Grace cried. Martha started planning names. Tommy asked complicated questions about where babies came from. Samuel shook Jesse's hand solemnly, man to man. The twins wanted to know if the baby would be a boy or girl. Ben just climbed into Jesse's lap and announced he was going to be a big brother. "A big brother!" Jesse laughed, holding the boy close. "You're going to be the best big brother in the whole territory." "I know." Ben said it with complete confidence. "Jesse, will you teach the baby to ride?" "When it's old enough, yes." "And shoot?" Eventually. And be brave like you. Jesse looked at Eleanor over Ben's head. His eyes were full of everything. Love, hope, fear, gratitude. All the emotions he'd buried for 12 years finally set free. The baby will be brave like its mother, he said. That's bravery enough for anyone. That night, after the children were asleep, Eleanor and Jesse sat by the fire. It's been a year, Eleanor said softly, since you found me. Found us. Jesse's hand rested on her belly. Since we found each other. A lot's changed. Everything's changed. He pulled her closer. This time last year, I was in a saloon in Montana, drinking myself blind, wondering why I bothered to keep breathing. And now? Now I can't imagine not breathing, not being here, not watching those children grow up and this baby come into the world. His voice roughened. You gave me that, Eleanor. You gave me a reason to live. You gave me one too. Eleanor turned in his arms to face him. I was dying when you found me, not just from hunger, from hopelessness, from the weight of carrying everything alone. You're not alone anymore. I know, she kissed him. I'll never be alone again. They sat in silence, watching the fire, listening to the wind outside. The cabin was warm. The children were safe. The future stretched out before them, full of possibility. Jesse, thank you. For what? For stopping. Eleanor's voice was barely a whisper. That day outside Wade's store. For seeing me when no one else would. For staying when everyone expected you to leave. I couldn't leave. Jesse's arms tightened around her. Something in you reached out and grabbed me, and I couldn't let go. Didn't want to. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd kept walking? No. His voice was firm. Because this is where I'm supposed to be. With you. With them. This is home. First real home I've had in 12 years. Eleanor closed her eyes, breathing in the smell of him. Wood smoke and leather and something uniquely Jesse. I love you, she said. I love you too. He kissed the top of her head, now and always. The baby was born in summer. A boy, strong and healthy with his father's dark hair and his mother's gray-blue eyes. They named him Henry. Eleanor held her son surrounded by her children, her husband standing at her side. 8 children now. A family grown from desperation and hope, and the kindness of a stranger who'd refused to look away. He's beautiful, Jesse said, his voice thick. He's perfect. He's ours. Ours. Jesse leaned down and kissed his son's forehead. Welcome to the family, Henry. You've got a lot of brothers and sisters to meet. Samuel held the baby next, careful and gentle, a man's hands cradling new life. I'll protect him, he said quietly, like you protected us. I know you will. Jesse put his hand on Samuel's shoulder. You're going to be a good man, Samuel. Better than me. Better than most. I learned from the best. Eleanor watched her 2 men, her son who'd grown up too fast, and her husband who'd learned to love again, and felt her heart overflow. This was family. This was home. This was everything she'd thought she'd lost, and more than she'd ever dared to dream. The years rolled on. Samuel grew into a deputy himself, following in Jesse's footsteps. Martha married a rancher's son, and had children of her own. Grace became a teacher. Tommy went east for education. The twins opened a general store, the first honest one the town had ever had. Ben took over the ranch when he was old enough. And Henry grew up surrounded by love, never knowing hunger, never knowing fear, never knowing what it meant to be alone. On the 10th anniversary of their meeting, Eleanor and Jesse stood on the hill overlooking their land. Look what we built, Eleanor said softly. Below them spread the ranch, the cabin expanded into a proper house, the barn solid and strong, cattle grazing in the fields, children and grandchildren playing in the yard. We did all right, Jesse agreed. All right. Eleanor laughed. We did more than all right. We built a life, a legacy, something that'll last long after we're gone. Because you didn't give up. Jesse took her hand. Because you kept fighting even when there was nothing left to fight with. Because you believed in a stranger who didn't deserve it. You deserved it. Eleanor squeezed his hand. You always did. You just needed someone to remind you. They stood in silence watching their family, their future, their forever. No regrets, Jesse asked. Not a single one. Eleanor leaned into him. Only that I didn't find you sooner. He kissed her hair. But then again, maybe we found each other exactly when we were supposed to. Maybe we did. The sun set over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Below, the children called for them to come down to join the celebration, to be part of the joy they'd created. Ready? Jesse asked. Ready. They walked down the hill together, hand in hand, into the warmth and laughter of the family they'd built. A starving widow, a wandering cowboy, 7 hungry children and 1 impossible chance. From nothing, they'd created everything. And that was the story of Eleanor and Jesse Calhoun, a story of desperation and hope, of darkness and light, of 2 broken people who found each other in the wilderness and refused to let go. They lived, they loved, they lasted. And in the end, that was all that mattered.